Hello everyone and welcome to Giant Fire Breathing Robot on YouTube. My name is Craig Withers and we are again looking at some more Hearthstone for you. We've got another video for you in our starter deck series. This time we are looking at the Warlock. As with the rest of the videos in our series, we are putting together a deck using only the basic cards from the class, the Warlock in this instance, as I say. What that means is that every single one of the cards we're going to use here will be available to you by the time you've leveled up your character to level 10. We're using no expert cards in here at all. That means you won't have to spend any time crafting anything. You won't have to use any of your precious arcane dust. You definitely won't have to spend any of your precious real world money by buying booster packs through the in-game shop. All you'll need to do is spend the hour and a half, 2 hours it will take you to level the character up to level 10, and you can make this deck just as easily as we can. So, without further ado, as with all of the other videos, I'm just going to rattle through and put the deck together. Ooh, there we go. Learn to spell. Okay, so start our Warlock deck, and I'm just going to rattle through, put these together, and I'll come back and speak about the various cards afterwards. I'm not going to waste any time discussing them while we're putting this together. Mostly because it's easier to kind of show them all in one place. Secondly, just because it slows things down. And yeah, with all of our other videos, you'll notice I'm using much the same, many of the same minions here. The Swamp Ooze, Novice Engineer, Shattered Sun Cleric, Shadowbolt, Drain Life. Here. Okay, go back and where are we? Hellfire. Well, and there we go. That's all of our 30 cards. So, the Warlock is yet another. It's mainly a direct damage class. Kind of along the lines of the mage and to a lesser extent the rogue. However, it does have a couple of different class features. The primary ones, the way I like to think of them, is demons and discards. Most of the minions, not all of them, but most of the minions you'll be using in the Warlock deck, or certainly the feature of a Warlock deck, is demons. Shockingly enough, with it being a Warlock. So there's your classic Voidwalker, Succubus, and the Infernal. All of these familiar to any Warlock player, any Warlock player from World of Warcraft. Pardon me. Yeah. Discards, as I say, you'll see here, for example, there's Soulfire. Deal 4 damage for 0 mana. Sounds fantastic, but you have to discard a random card. You're going to see that in an awful lot of Warlock cards. There you go. Succubus comes in, battle cry, discard a random card. Reason being, that explains why it's only 2 mana for the 4/3 creature. I mean, that's still a good card. If you don't like having to discard things at random from your hand, then the Warlock is not for you. it's not your class. Also, the hero power, life tap, draw a card and take 2 damage. That sounds horrible. It is not. It is easily one of the best hero powers in the game. The ability to draw cards directly into your hand at will once a turn is fantastic. It's not quite overpowered, but it's pretty close to it. Yeah, so we'll rattle through. The cards that we've got in here are fairly straightforward. Soulfire we touched on there. Deal 4 damage, discard a random card. Mortal Coil. Yeah, 1 damage isn't great. 1 damage for 1 mana is really standard, but you know, you're maybe going to get some cards on there. Obviously, you're maybe going to want to use that early on in the game to plink off some small. If you know that's one of those ones that is best used early game. You know, if you're going to be wiping out small creatures, you're getting that card off. If you're just using that in association with other things to chip away at larger creatures' health, then you're wasting it. You're kind of missing the point. Voidwalker for a 1/3 with taunt, that's not bad at all for 1 mana, you know, you can't sniff at that. Voodoo Doctor, we've got that in there because it is healing you back up. It's it's arguable whether or not you actually need that. Obviously that health is back in there. You're going to use it on yourself to mitigate some of the damage you've taken from life tap. It's arguable if you even need that, if you're just kind of, if that's pointless, or if you should just go the whole hog and just take the damage and hope that you get the right cards in there. But it's in there just now in the starter deck. It'll help ease that out for you while you get used to the class. Succubus, as I say, it's a 4/3 creature for 2 mana. Big deal. You've got to discard a card. There's ways of dealing with that. Day in Life, it's a solid card. 3 mana for 2 health. 2 health and 2 damage at the same time. So again, you've got Day in Life in there for your health, which maybe argues that you don't need Voodoo Doctor. Of course, you see the mana difference between those. Shadow Bolt, that's fairly straightforward. Again, as I said earlier on, we've got Shattered Sun Cleric, Swamp Ooze, Novice Engineer, all of the, the Yeti, all of these creatures in there that you see everywhere. Hellfire is the big board clearer for the Warlock. Note that that's 3 damage to all characters. That includes you and your minions. So use this one with care. Approach with caution. It can be a fantastic card. I don't see it an awful lot in Warlocks. I know that for some reason quite a few Warlock players are loath to use it, but as far as I'm concerned, if you're in for the penny, you're in for the pound. So that kind of self damage has always been a feature of the Warlock class in Hearthstone and in World of Warcraft. So I say go for it. If anything else, buff it up with some spell damage and just go the whole hog, just go to town. 4 damage, 4 mana for 3 damage, that's really good. You can't argue with that. 3 damage to everything. So you could combo that with a couple other things. Even in the late game, it's still going to, this is the problem. If you're keeping those things to the late game, you will have taken a fair bit of damage, if not from the enemy, from your life tap itself. So approach with caution, but still use it. The last specific card is that's your Dread Infernal. That's your big stompy. A bit cheaper because of the battle cry. Again, that 1 damage to everyone. That's including you. So bear that in mind. But yeah, so that's the deck. Again, it's a fairly straightforward deck. Most of the ones that we've got in here are. I'm just kind of trying pull out some pointers for you. Yeah. Like as I say, a lot of these ones have got discards. The way to try and get around that, if you have, a card which is going to make you discard, use it after. If you've got a really good card in your hand that you want to use that first, and then use a discard. That's not always going to be doable. Depending on how much mana you have available, but that's the way you want to try and do it. If you can get to the point where you're playing those out of an empty hand, then maybe you want to do that, play that first, and then use life tap to draw another card, so you're not top decking all the time. That's one way of doing it. But the hero power, as I said, don't be afraid to use that. It's a fantastic power, even with the damage. You're just going to have to learn to live it. Use it early, use it often, use it every turn if you have to. The earlier you use it, the more powerful it is. The later in the game that you get, and the less health that you have, the harder it is to justify. After you get to about 15 life, you'll think twice about using it. But up until that point, just burn through it. To be honest, the benefits that it gives you, certainly in the early game, far outweigh the damage that you're going to take from it. Yeah, and that and other cards, like I say, the cards that there are some, off the top of my head, I'm sure there are some Warlock cards which do damage you when you play them as well. And even just the ones that make you discard random cards, use them early. The earlier in the game that you use them, the better it is, so that the benefit exceeds the cost or exceeds the risk. Like if you're discarding random cards in turn 1 or turn 2, that's fine because you've got another X amount of turns to build your hand back up. If you're playing that in turn 8 or 9, when you've got less cards in your hand and less chance of having more cards, then it has much more of a knock-on effect, if you see what I mean. But yeah, that's about it, really. It's a funny class, the Warlock. It's difficult to get your head around, and it is quite off-putting. I haven't quite clicked with it myself. It's not one of my favourite ones, but it does have, when it works really, really well. But don't expect to finish the game with 30 life or with 25 life or maybe with even 20 life. Expect to finish the game 15-10 life left, but at the end of the day, a win's a win. If you finish with 1 life, as long as the opponent has 0 life, it's still a win. Doesn't matter. Just you have to bear that in mind. But yeah, that's it. So as I say, I said this with every single one of our videos. Use the deck, experiment with it. If you think things aren't working, take them out and put other things in. As I say, the Voodoo Doctor, you might want to drop that out and put in Jinx, just about anything else. What have we got? You can even tie Corruption in there if you want. I'm not keen on that card just because of the delay on it. See, no, I mean that's all over the Warlock standard cards. You can put just about anything else on it. You could even drop that out because you see the mana curve. We've got an awful lot down there in the bottom end in the early game. You could drop those 2 cards out to free space for something later on. For example, I would absolutely recommend. Jinx, there we go. The Azure Drake. Get some of those in. Spell damage. That's going to work with so many cards available to the Warlock. What else have we even got here? We see Flame Imp. Yes, wanted to bring this up. No, not Flame Imp, but Blood Imp. That's what I'm after. This is a great card. Doesn't look like much. 0/1. You know, okay. What's even the point of that? Stealth means it can't be targeted, can't be touched until it does something until you attack with it. This buffing up event, give another random friendly minion +1 health. That is infuriating to play against, especially because you can't touch it. You can't do anything with it. It can be dealt with. Cards that don't target it. For example, Hellfire, for example, would hurt that. Flame Strike by the Mage, for example, would hurt that. But it's very difficult to deal with directly. I see a lot of people bringing this out, buffing it up, and then using it to attack. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. Bring this out, leave it on the door, and just leave it on the deck. And leave it on the table. Don't move it. Don't do anything with it, and just let it sit there and buff up your other creatures, and infuriate the enemy. No end. Trust me, that's fantastic. It's a common card, super easy to put together. So get some of those. Plus, there's an excellent chance you're going to get some of those from some packs. But yeah. Just chuck some extra things in there. Doom card, that's another good card. 5/7 for 5 mana, that's fantastic. With charge. Battle Cry, unfortunately you're discarding 2 random cards, but like I said earlier on, there's ways to deal with that. But yeah. Siphon Soul, I don't see that out an awful lot. Destroy a minion to restore 3 health. That's okay. But for 6 mana, it's expensive. For my taste, that's just about too expensive. But yeah. So as I say, with all of the decks, just experiment. If things aren't working, or if you don't like things, take them out, put other things in, see how it goes. It's the only way to be sure. To coin a phrase. Regardless, let us know how you get on with the deck. If you like it or if you dislike it, comment down below. Let us know why. I'd love to hear back from you. I'd love to know how the decks are getting on in your hands. And until next time, if you liked the video, give us a thumbs up. If you're enjoying what you're seeing from Giant Fire Breathing Robot, pardon me, hit the subscribe button down below. And until next time, thank you very much for watching, and we shall see you then.